welcome to Island Decree. We are at our post-standard podcast, and post-standard is not post-modern. I want to make that clear right now.
Yeah, that definitely feels like it needs to be
If I ever play a modern game, we will have a post-modern podcast. It'll be really funny.
That will be very entertaining, yeah.
So, Nick just got finished playing Standard. I did not, because I don't have millions of dollars.
Neither do I. I run a $30 deck, thank you very much.
So, Nick, tell us a little bit about how you did.
With the Las Vegas GP coming up this following week, the majority of people I came up against were all prepped and ready for that, which kind of sucked because I was not.
Wow.
Yeah, so my first two rounds, I came up against people that were running the deck list that is currently ranked number 1 in Standard. It's pretty expensive, so I wouldn't suggest running out and buying it unless you have a trust fund and or won the lottery.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description of the video. It's the top deck in Standard. It's Brad Nelson's deck, if you guys are wondering.
Yes, so they were all prepped and ready for the GP. I was happy about my ability to keep up with them just until they finally swung for lethal. But I did lose those 2 rounds. My third round was against a red-black Culligan deck, Culligan being the Dragonlord from Dragons of Tarkir, if you don't know. My first game, I lost to a ridiculous amount of creatures swinging with haste. And then my second second game, I milled them out, and I was very happy about that. Third game, I won with a Undergrowth Scavenger, and won that match. So I overall went 1-2, winning 1 pack.
And speaking of packs, what pack did you win?
So how my card store works is that we are able to choose any currently being printed pack that's in Standard as our prize. So I chose Theros, it being my favorite set that is in Standard right now.
So as we're bad at this podcast, we forgot that we crack a pack at the beginning of every episode. So we're going to do that now.
All right, so we're going to crack that Theros pack that I did win.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a great sound.
All right. Here it is. We're going to sniff it a little bit, get that new card smell. All right. Our first card is Benthic Giant. It is a 4/5 for 5 and a blue with hexproof.
Huh.
Kind of an interesting sight for blue. It seems a little bit more in the green realm, but
hexproof is stable on the blue occasionally.
Yeah, true. I'm mostly meaning the 4/5.
Oh,
seems a little bit big for blue in my opinion, but
yeah,
you know,
this is as beefy as blue gets, unless you're talking about like the 8/8s for 10s, the 8/8 for 10.
Yeah, or like Stormtide Leviathan, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those are mostly end of game combos.
Yeah.
Whereas this seems to be like a turn 6. I kind of need something to put out there.
As someone gets murdered off screen, did you not hear that loud yell?
I did not. That was an uncomfortable sentiment.
Maybe it's from my end, but I'm at home.
Okay, so
I like hexproof. This is too expensive to pick in a draft unless you're picking really late.
I would.
Too expensive to run in Standard because it doesn't mesh with any of the archetypes in Standard. And
in
Commander, there are better things you can do with 6 mana in most Commander games, especially if you're running blue. So
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah. Meh.
All right, our second card, Baleful Eidolon. Eidolon, I apologize. It is a 1/1 for 1 and a black. It is an enchantment creature with a bestow cost of 4 and a black with death touch. So you can bestow it as a aura, and then that target creature gets +1/+1 and has death touch.
So I wasn't a big fan of bestow, and then I read it again. Because I didn't realize that once that creature that it's attached to dies, it becomes a creature.
It does, yes.
That being said, 5 mana for this...
It seems a little costly, especially since there are much other 1/1 for 1s with Death Touch. And really, the bestow aspect of it, it's a little expensive for my taste. If it was maybe 2 and a black, then I would definitely be more interested in the card. But since it's 4...
Yeah, I mean, there are much better black cards with bestow. Off the top of my head, Nighthowler is one of my personal favorites.
Yes.
Which bestows for 1 more than its mana cost, and gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards.
That's actually super awesome.
And that needs to go in your standard deck, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely will probably look into that.
I have 2 if I want to send them over to you.
Well, that would be sweet of you. Okay, third card, Titan Strength. It is an instant for 1 red. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn, and scry 1. Yeah, it's a good trap. If you're blocking something and you're like, lol, play this, you die. Plus you get to scry, which is always nice.
And scry in red.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a interesting aspect. But overall, I'd say it's mediocre. Not too bad, not too great.
I'd probably only run this in a draft, but I'd definitely run it in a draft.
Definitely, yeah. In a draft, possibly if you're running like a mono red deck, it's possible, but
or really even like
still
red-green would be a good thing to run this in.
Yeah. Alright, fourth card, Voyaging Satyr. That is a 1/2 for 1 and a green, with the ability tap and untap target land.
Yes, in standard if you're running this type of... the deck is in a ramp deck.
Yeah.
Yes, probably no in a draft because you can't reliably ramp. I mean, I might pick this up mid-round, late round. No in Commander because so many cards do it better. I mean, maybe throw 1 in, but there are a lot of cards that tap better. Arbor Elf comes to mind.
Yeah. Even like Uvenwald Mystics, or not Uvenwald Mystics, I apologize. That
Elvish
is
Mystic.
Elvish Mystic. Uvenwald Mystics is a werewolf. I apologize. Got werewolves on the brain. Yeah, so it's still usable.
Keep your fetishes out of the podcast.
I'm sorry. Vaporskin is our 5th card. That is a 2/1 for 1 and a blue with flying and the ability. Vaporskin can only block creatures with flying.
Oh, Vaporkin.
Vaporkin. I apologize.
I take offense to that because I personally identify as a Vaporkin.
Oh, yes.
You should follow my Tumblr blog all about it.
I will, of course.
This has been... maybe? Okay.
It's... If I would play it if it was a 2/1 for 1 with flying. Because of the extra mana cost and the downfall of it can only block creatures with flying, I wouldn't run it.
Yeah, I mean, I might draft it middle rounds.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, it's a creature of flying. It'll get you some damage. It's a 10-turn clock.
True. 6th card, Boon of Erebos. That is an instant for 1 black. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and regenerate it. You lose 2 life.
I mean, yeah.
There's better cards.
I'd pick it up in a draft.
Possibly in a draft, yeah.
I would never
standard,
run it in a Commander deck.
Yeah, never in Commander. I would probably rarely run it in Standard. Probably not.
No, there's better cards.
Alright.
Our thrilling analysis of every card is that there's something better than it.
Oh, yes. Well, you know. Alright. 7th card, Loathsome
Catoblepas.
Catoblepas.
I know how to pronounce that because of Friday nights.
Oh, true. Can we all just take a quick second to pronounce that? Catoblepas.
Catoblepas.
That's always fun to say. Okay. It is a 3/3 for 5 and a black, with the ability of 2 and a forest. Loathsome Catoblepas must be blocked this turn if able. When it dies, the target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn.
I would like this so much better if you could change it slightly to be must be blocked by target creature this turn if able.
Yes, definitely. That would definitely constitute the 6 converted mana cost, but it's a little too expensive for me.
Yeah, I mean, not in a draft. That's way too late to be playing in a draft. Not in Standard. Not in Commander either.
Yeah, maybe in kitchen table.
Yeah, there's no card that you can't run on your kitchen table.
Yeah. I mean, there's cards that you shouldn't run on your kitchen table.
Yes, there are.
You definitely should not run in the house, especially with scissors. But
or if you're playing Pokemon, should you not run with Scizors?
Oh, true. But you can run with the Catoblepas. Okay, 8th card, Battlewise Valor. It's an instant for 1 and a white. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Scry 1. Yeah.
I'd pick it up in the draft. Aside from that, meh.
Yeah, I can see it being used
White
in...
weenie.
White weenie. Really, mostly for the trap effect and possibly the scry.
Yeah.
Oh, our next card, Guardians of Meletis. It's an artifact creature. It's a 0/6 for 3. This is actually one of my favorite walls out there. It's got Defender, and that's it. It's a pretty good turn 3 blocker, really. I run them primarily in my red decks.
I mean, I don't like it as much as you do, just because I like my walls have a little more oomph, like Wall of Tanglecord.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have the appeal that a wall does, but it works.
Yeah, it'll get you there. Draft it.
Yeah.
Maybe play it in Standard if you want. Don't play it in Commander.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, next card, Ill-Tempered Cyclops. It is a 3/3 for 4 with Trample, and Monstrous 3 for 5 and a red. For those of you who don't know what Monstrous is, you pay the cost for Monstrous, and you put that many +1/+1 counters on it. And then it becomes Monstrous.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Monstrous as a mechanic. It is way overpriced for most cards.
It is generally really overpriced. My favorite Monstrous cards are the ones that have an ability to say, when this card becomes Monstrous, this happens. Other than that, I don't particularly use Monstrous.
Yeah, this card is way overpriced for what it does, which is just get a 6/6 trample.
Yeah.
But, if you look at something like Fleecemane Lion, which Nick lost to, when it becomes monstrous, it is hexproof and indestructible.
True, yeah.
And that's what you want in a monstrous creature.
Definitely. Although I will preface that with Ill-Tempered Cyclops is a common, and probably only going to run you about 5 to 10 cents, whereas Fleecemane Lion's going to run you about $5.
Yeah. Well,
You win some, you lose some. Okay, next card. Decorated Griffin is a 2/3 for 5 with flying, and the ability 1 and a white, prevent the next 1 combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn.
Ew.
It's I mean...
It's an uncommon?
Maybe, yeah, it is. It's possible maybe late in the game you could maybe delay your death a turn, but other than that...
I'm not a fan of damage prevention very much at all.
Yeah.
2/3 flying for 5 is okay, but I don't like this card very much at all. What's your next uncommon?
Stoneshock Giant. It is a 5/4 for 3 and 2 reds. It has Monstrosity 3 for 6 and 2 reds. And when it becomes monstrous, creatures without flying your opponent controls cannot block this turn. So really, if you have 8 mana lying around and you're like, I'm going to deal finishing blow because they don't have any flying creatures, then bam, monstrous. And now you're swinging at least with an 8 that they can't block. But really, it's kind of an expensive finish combo.
Yeah. Again, I like monstrosity with an effect, but I don't like a bad effect.
Yeah, I'd say it's an okay effect. Like I said, it's probably really only used for like a finish combo.
And only if your opponent has no flying creatures.
No flying creatures, which is honestly pretty rare, especially in Standard. Okay, next card, Centaur Battlemaster.
Uh-huh.
It is a 3/3 for 3 and 2 forests. With Heroic, whenever you cast a spell that targets Centaur Battlemaster, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. I like this card. In fact, I am running it in my blue-white bolster deck, primarily because you play this card... did I say blue-white? Dang it. I meant green-white bolster. But... I mean, as soon as you start getting 2 spells on this a turn, boom, it's already a 9/9.
Yeah, and I mean, after just one spell hits it, it becomes a 6/6, and those counters...
It's a 6.
Yeah, it's a 6/6 for 5 once you do that, and those buffs don't go away after the turn, they're counters. This one I'm a big fan of.
I am a fan.
Heroic is probably the best mechanic in that block.
Yes.
Before we go to the rare... The rare's next card, correct?
Yes.
Do we have a foil?
We do not. No, not in this.
Okay, what are our land and token?
I did not get a token in this, actually.
You got a boring insert card?
I did get a boring insert card, which crushed my spirit.
What is our boring insert card?
Our boring insert card is... The night sky of Theros is not merely filled with stars for the mortals to stare at in awe. The all-powerful gods reside in the divine realm of Nyx. The gods are infused with stars and live their lives like moving constellations.
Yep. Those are insert cards. Flavor.
And our land was a forest. Yeah. Kind of a pretty one, though. Artist Rob Alexander.
You can cast the Centaur Battlemaster with that forest.
You can. Alright, our rare. I've actually seen this once or twice, and I actually kind of like it. Daxos of Meletis. It is a 2/2 for 1 and a white and a green. So converted mana cost 3. It is a legendary creature, human soul.
And a blue.
I'm sorry. It is 1 for white, 1 and a white and a blue. So converted mana cost 3. Legendary creature, human soldier. It cannot be blocked by creatures of power 3 or greater. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of that player's library. You gain life equal to that card's converted mana cost, and until the end of the turn, you may cast that card. And you may pay mana as the mana of any color to cast it.
This is a card with a lot of words, so I keep having to read it every time I discuss things, but I like how its abilities work with each other, first of all, that it can't be blocked by creatures with power of 3 or greater, and whenever it deals combat damage to that player.
Yes. Especially if you're fighting a ramp opponent that mostly has, like, big creatures. Well, now they can't block it, and you're dealing combat damage every turn.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, if you can get by their walls and they don't have any of their... If you can get by their big creatures and they don't have any of their tappers still up, this works really well against ramp decks. And then I like that you can life equal to that card's converted mana cost. Again, good against ramp decks.
Yeah, and being able to play your opponent's spells is always something that I enjoy.
And its ability, yeah, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. Which really works regardless of what deck you're playing against.
Exactly.
And, it's a 2/2 for 3, which isn't awful.
Exactly. The only complaint I would have is the fact that it is one with a white and a blue. So that can possibly be a little bit of a mana shutout possibility, but...
Yeah, I'd love to see someone try to run you could run a commander deck off of this then.
You could. Like a white-blue soldier deck off of this would probably do pretty well.
If you have a Daxos of Meletis deck, please leave it in the comments, and we can take a look at that deck for you. This is honestly not the worst rare you could have gotten in this pack.
Yeah, definitely.
And unlike our last pack, it's not even a mythic.
One pack I did open earlier had the mythic Underworld Cerberus, I believe. Which was an okay card, but definitely did not go with my deck mechanics.
Yeah, we've been getting disappointing mythics. It's a common theme with us.
Yeah. A little bit. I'm a little disappointed. Although I did get a Spear of... I forget what it is.
The
Spear of Heliod.
Yeah.
And it was a foil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick played some Standard tonight.
Yeah, and it was always fun.
I stayed at home and was on YouTube all night because I'm a loser and I don't play Standard. And Commander at my store isn't competitive. It's either way too competitive to the point where it isn't fun, or it's not competitive enough to the point where I just win.
I mean, just winning isn't too bad.
Yeah, but you feel like a dirtbag for it, and I like my Commander games to go long.
True. That is always fun.
Like, I'm someone who wants Shahrazad legal in Commander, so I can make the games go, for 3 hours long.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I have a deck list, which I might end up putting in the description of this video, that has 4 Panoptic Mirrors and 4 Shahrazads to create 5 games at the same time.
Ugh. Real quick before we go on, talking about my night at Standard, I have a small anecdote to share.
Alright.
So as I was in line to pick up my prize pack, I noticed something very interesting. One of the guys who had won the majority of his matches and got, I think, 4 packs, was opening them, looked through them, and then piled them up, threw them in the garbage, and left. So, me being the conservationist that I am, as I got my pack, I asked the guy that was handing out prizes if I could grab those cards out of the trash, if that's a thing that they're cool with. And he said, sure, why not? What are you doing? Our garbage is up to you. And me having no dignity, I decided to jump in the trash and grab about 40 cards.
Now, 1 second. He said, what you do in our garbage is up to you?
Yes. Which, in my defense, is a little creepy, and I'm not sure if that is really, what you want to say. But if you were wondering, a few of the cards that I pulled out of the garbage, Profaner of the Dead, Centaur Battlemaster, another one similar to the one that we got in the pack, as well as, let me find that, Flatten Mind Rot Assault Formation.
These aren't $40 cards, but they're cards that'll get you there.
No. Yeah, Roast, Culligan Forerunners, Scream Reach Brawler, Vandalize, Kindled Fury, Qualsys, I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Qualsysma Behemoth, Self-Inflicted Wounds, Silumgar Butcher, Lose Mind, Marsh Hulk, Atarka Monument, a Display of Dominance, Defeat, Conifer Strider. Most of them were commons. There were about 4 rares in there, but still, in my opinion, opening packs and throwing them in the garbage because you didn't get cards that you want is, one, disrespectful just to, like, everything, but also it's kind of a jerk move, especially when you don't know if, like, maybe one of your friends needs some of those cards.
Or, like,
generally, when I...
give them to a kid.
Yeah, like somebody who's just starting out playing Magic, and, I mean, sure, you couldn't have made a deck out of those cards, but it was still 40 to 50 cards that, I mean, even if you don't want to use them and you have no one to give them to, you can still sell them.
I mean, some cards take 4 commons for a cent, so you can't sell them for much, but...
No, you can't sell them for much, but, I mean, 40 to 50 cards, you're looking at, like, 40, 50 cents.
Now...
And those are only the commons in there.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I've seen this happen. This is actually more common than you might think, players just throwing out their cards. I was in a shop on, like, a Monday morning. I think I was buying a Johnny that gains 100 life, because I'm a big life gain fan.
Yeah, you are.
And while I was waiting, I saw a pack of cards in the trash. Now, this is Fate Reforged, and to let you guys know, I've bought probably 60, 70 packs of the things. So I looked at the cards, didn't see any good rares, and put them back, but I did not myself throw them away.
Yeah. In my opinion, I don't think you should throw away cards, especially cards like from packs and that kind of stuff. I mean, give them to someone who needs them, or sell them, or something, but really, for me, the garbage is not the best place for them.
And again, the only reason I didn't take those cards is because I have ample supplies of them that I am willing to give to friends who are learning.
Exactly. So, long story short, at least for me, don't throw cards in the trash.
Yeah. This has been a public service announcement.
Although, if you do throw the cards in the trash, let me know which trash you threw them in, because I am not above going into trash and taking cards out.
Basically, when we go to GP Dallas, if you are in any city in Texas, just let us know.
And if you throw cards in the trash, you'll hear, like, a nice, like, thundering, like, stomp over there, and then you'll just see me, like, digging through the trash can looking for cards, because I have no dignity.
And he doesn't just mean your card store. If you throw them in the trash in your house.
Oh, yeah. No. You'll throw them away, and then, like, next minute you'll be like, knock, 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 knock. Oh, yeah. Excuse me, can I have those?
I didn't think you'd be that polite.
Well, I mean, it is people's house.
So you aren't above digging in trash, but you are above breaking and entering.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as you hit a felony, that's kind of where I draw the line.
Where you drop a line?
I mean, I'm not a fan of felonies.
How overall would you say your standard experience was?
Personally, I enjoy standard, for multiple reasons. Number one, the cards are, well, fun to play with, first off, but also, you only have certain cards and sets that you can use. And I kind of like that. I personally get a little overwhelmed when I get to choose from anything. And it really helps me build a deck and, like, narrow down my collection that way. So I like it in that aspect. Generally, another thing I like about Standard is the fact that there's almost always free Standard anywhere you go. I'm in college in Santa Clara, California. There's a free Standard where I am. We are originally from Vancouver. There's free Standard where we are.
Actually, there's not.
There's not free Standard in Vancouver?
There recently has been. There didn't used to be.
Yeah.
There's no free F&M, which is an
important distinction. I don't think there's free F&M anywhere.
No, that's an important distinction. There is never any free F&M.
Yeah.
And that's what the bigger Standard events are.
Yeah.
But if you want to go on a Monday night or like a Tuesday or Wednesday, there's likely free Standard.
Yeah, definitely.
There are only 2 shops in my city, and one of them has free Standard like 2 nights a week. One of them does not, but, you know.
So generally there's free Standard. One downside to it is there is that pay-to-win aspect of it, where you can come across people who do copy the deck lists from the top decks in Standard at the time, and they spend $200 to $300 on their decks, and then they come against you and they win in 5 turns because you only spent maybe $30 on your deck, and that can kind of suck a little bit. But for me, whenever I come across people like that, I always remind myself, oh yeah, like, they spent $300 on this and I didn't. Although it is always fun to beat them.
Yes. And again, I don't want to say net decking is wrong.
No, definitely. It's not wrong. It's still a thing. And personally, I use a site called Tapped Out, tappedout.net. We can put a link to it in the description. You can create an account. You can make deck lists online. You can practice with those decks. You can look at other people's deck lists. You can copy them if you feel the need. You can get ratings for it. You can get suggestions for it. It's an awesome site. But there are the people that go on there simply looking for the decks that will win in 5 turns.
Yeah, or even like this, if you just Google best decks in Standard, you'll take a website that is actually on Magic's website.
Yeah.
And it'll show you the best decks, which is quite literally what these people did.
Exactly. Which is fine.
I mean, it wins.
If you're that kind of player, yeah, you definitely win.
But I have more fun creating my own decks.
Yeah. I am a very big fan of the time that's spent sorting cards and finding out the cards that work well together. And it's really fun to really bring these cards together that you wouldn't necessarily think will work together, but because of this downfall of this card, it really works well with the strategy. And that's the fun part of Magic to me, as well as being able to pull off these combos in an actual game. Mm-hmm. So when you just have preset combos, for me, that takes a little bit of the flavor out.
It's like, I played mostly Commander, and I've never actually looked at a Commander deck list online. Yeah. All my decks are basically original, and I also play a little bit of Modern, and I have one Modern deck that is currently in construction. And I don't know if those cards are used as staples in Modern, but they seem fun, and they work effectively. I win on turn 4 or 5 whenever I test play it.
Yeah.
Pro tip, Vexing Devil, good in any format.
Oh, any format. I love it. One big thing to look out for is if you're not playing kitchen table Magic, you're probably going to spend money on Magic. And even if you are playing kitchen table Magic, you're going to spend money on Magic. Any format, really, Modern, Standard, Commander, Legacy, they're all going to... Probably you're going to need to buy cards to improve your decks, especially if you want to compete with these people.
And I mean, if you're playing... If nobody in your friends group has any money, if nobody spends any cards on money, if they just get all the cards from packs, then you can put those together and not spend any money on cards aside from packs, and just play against your friends. But if you're playing in any format, or if you have friends who spend money on cards, then if you want to win ever, you will need to spend money on cards.
Yeah. So I think a moral of that story would just be, don't be too afraid to spend money on cards. I know it's definitely kind of a risky investment. I definitely have thought about buying $30 cards and then being really, it is a piece of paper in the long run. And yeah, they have resale value, but at the same time, they are a piece of paper. It could get damaged if you don't take care of it. So there is that kind of risk aspect to it. But if you do want to play more competitively, a little bit more aggressively, don't be afraid to spend, $10 on cards.
I own 2 cards over $30. One of them I bought at a price lower than what I could sell it to a store for, and I checked that before buying it. I bought it off eBay. Mm-hmm. I bought a copy of Charizard for $35.
Wow.
eBay's a good place to look for cards because they'll sell them low. They'll start a bidding. And if you can win that bid, they'll sell them pretty low to you. The other card is $100 at this time. It's Liliana of the Veil, and I got that from a pack.
Yeah, yeah. And definitely don't discount opening packs and getting rares or mythic rares. Just recently, in the past week, I opened a pack and pulled Dragonlord Ojutai. What I like to do with my packs is sell the rares or mythic rares if I can't use them, and then use that money to improve my decks or buy new cards.
Yeah, I would sell Liliana, but I have her in a mono black EDH deck that is currently wrecking face.
Yeah. So really, there are ways to play without breaking the bank, and there are ways to improve your decks without all of the 250 card decks. But don't be too discouraged if you do come up against those decks and they do win.
Yeah, again, it's as long as you're having fun. I think it's the most important part of playing Magic.
That is always the most important part.
Ultimately, yeah, you can go to GPs. Yeah, you can win some money. But ultimately, you're probably not going to end up being a pro player.
Yeah.
And it's a game.
Yeah, it is definitely a game. And remember, when they started making Magic, they made it as a strategy game that friends could play. They didn't assume that it was going to be competitive to a point.
And there's no shame in not being interested in competitive.
God, I wasn't interested in competitive for the first 5 years I was playing Magic. I was just like, why play competitive? It's just a waste of money. But now that I am playing competitive, there are definitely gains to it.
Funny story about that. I had to explain the rules of Standard to him about 5 different times when we were first starting out.
I just didn't understand the fact.
Because I'm like, what are you doing? Why are there Zendikar cards in this?
Everyone wants Zendikar in everything.
Theros just came out. Why are there Zendikar cards in your deck?
Well, yeah, it definitely took me a while to adjust to the competitive rules. But once you do, it's fun.
I don't play competitive Standard, and I don't currently play competitive Modern because my deck is too expensive, and I'm saving up for that. But I play high-level Commander. I don't play Highlander because everybody's just too, look at all my power 9s. And Highlander is a bit hard to get into. I might start playing Highlander eventually, but I played some pretty high-level Commander, and it's really fun. I spent probably more money than I care to admit on my Commander decks. So, but if you don't want to play high-level, if you don't want to spend $5, $10 on a card, we have a friend who won't spend more than $1.25 on a card.
That makes sense. That's a good rule to buy.
I texted him, and I'm like, this card's really good for your, he has a Merfolk deck, and I'm like, this card should go in your Merfolk deck, and he's like, how much is it? And I'm like, it's only $1.25, and he's like, I'm not spending that on a piece of paper.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He'll actually be on the podcast eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
So, let's talk about being new to Magic, as we're kind of transitioning into that.
Yeah, sure.
What are the best ways to... Of our friend group that plays Magic, I was the latest to learn how to play. By far. You should not teach me the way that my friends chose to teach me.
Yes, so...
you should teach your friends in a nice way.
So we should start off this little bit. I'll discuss how I got into Magic, and then we can discuss how we tried to teach you how to play Magic. And then after that, we can get into a little more about how I like to start out with new sets and that kind of stuff. So I started 9th edition with a large beginner set that my family shared. I created a mono red deck out of the packs that were in that. My dad and my sister used the pre-constructed decks, and my mom made a white mono-colored deck out of that set. My mom decided that the game was no fun because she kept losing and blamed it on the, quote, gross artwork, which I took a large offense to because if you have seen any Magic cards, even the old ones, the Magic is gorgeous. Or the artwork is gorgeous.
Magic is gorgeous.
In my opinion, I believe that if anyone, I would give you the challenge, and you can post the cards as comments. to find a magic card that if you blew up the artwork onto like a wall would not sell for a large amount of money in a museum.
I do have one, by the way.
Keep in mind that a large canvas covered solely in yellow and blue paint sold for over $100,000.
No, you'll see why. You are connected to the internet, right?
I am, yeah.
Look up the art for Invoke Prejudice, and I'm going to put it on the screen right now.
Yeah, the artwork is still nice. Little racist, but,
For some context, this card was drawn by Harold McNeil, who is a noted white supremacist, and he's no longer working for Wizards of the Coast.
Which, obviously makes sense. But I would still argue that the artwork is still nicely done. It's just very distasteful. And for those listening, we do not support racism in any way, shape, or form, and neither are we white supremacists, just so you know.
Although, just a friendly reminder that you can, in fact, be racist to white people.
Yes, and being racist is not cool.
Yes, although this card is a blue card. So, inclusion of blue people.
Okay, so moving on.
On to the gross card art.
Yes, so my mom thought the gross card art was a deterrent, so she stopped playing. My sister went to college and was in high school at the time and was like, nah, too cool for card games.
She went to college when she was in high school?
Well, she was in high school when we started, and then she went to college.
And then she got married eventually, and...
Yeah, and then she got married, and now she has a life. My dad and I played, but he had access to cards, being as he had a car and a job, and continually built his decks, whereas I stayed with the same mono red burn deck that I'd started with. So I got a little discouraged and then stopped playing Magic for a while. Then in high school, some of our friends asked if we knew how to play.
Not some of our friends, one of our friends.
Okay, yeah.
One of our very nerdy friends who brought his cards to our high school, and we're like, I want to play this, but I don't want to play this in my high school, especially not during class. Please stop talking to me so loudly.
Yes.
And it's funny because this friend now is the friend who continually gets beaten down.
Yeah,
when we play
feel
Magic.
kind of bad about it, but whatever. So I saw his cards and I was like, oh, cool, I used to play Magic, I still have some cards. So I dug him out, started playing with him, and then you came along and you were like, hello, what is this cool game that you are playing? And we described it to you, and then we gave you some cards, and then we literally beat the crap out of you every time.
Yeah, no, it's even
without
worse.
Telling you the rules.
Because you and Rocky were like, okay. But then I talked to Jack.
Uh-huh.
And Jack is our friend who will be joining us on the podcast eventually. And Jack's like, oh yeah, I used to play Magic all the time. Let me pull out all these old cards I have from Lorwyn.
Oh, wow.
And I had just bought a starter deck.
Nice.
And not only did he proceed to beat me down incredibly bad, but he enforced competitive level rules on me.
Oh, wow.
So, as you can understand, I learned how to play out of hatred.
Just with a spite in your heart of being like, I will win. They will pay.
Out of pure spite, I learned everything I could, and then bought the best deck I possibly could with money I didn't technically have.
Yeah,
my credit's in an awful situation right now.
Oh, darn you, Wizards of the Coast.
I took out a loan to play Magic the Gathering.
So that's kind of how we started. For a long time, I had a pretty strict devotion to mono red burn, until finally I discovered red green ramp, and then decided that was the new cool thing. And now finally, I am playing with a white blue style, so that's fun.
There was also a time when you discovered Twilight and then started playing with werewolves and vampires.
Yes, this is true, but it was mostly because Innistrad is beautiful, and we both know how I feel about Twilight. It's a very negative feeling for those of you who don't know. I really, really don't like it. So, pretty much how I like to start with new sets, especially core sets.
Let's talk about it first. How should you, if you're a person getting into Magic, or if you're a person with a friend who's getting into Magic, how should you go about teaching your friends the game? Like, I believe you're training someone right now.
Yes, definitely. I apologize for trying to jump ahead a little bit. So first off, don't beat the crap out of them every time that you play, because 1, that's a jerk move, and 2, they will most likely be discouraged.
Yeah, most people aren't like me, where they'll just try to win out of spite.
Yeah. I am currently teaching one of my friends how to play. So what I did is, because I know they don't have cards that are great, so what I did was I built them a deck out of my cards that they can use to learn the game. And then I've been slowly playing more... I apologize, hiccup. More and more games with them until they kind of starting to get the rules a little bit. Games are becoming more and more smooth. But it's definitely not cool to force Magic on people, which I have found, strangely enough, people don't like it when you force them to play Magic.
We have another story about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, 1, don't force people into it. 2, be as helpful as possible. 3, what I like to do is I like to send people instructional videos on how to play, as well as like a rule book, because some people just like to read the rules.
And rules come in a lot of the starter decks. If you buy a starter deck, there will be a rule insert. And don't do like I did and be like, I trust these guys, and throw that rule insert away.
Oh yeah, that's never a smart idea.
Also, there are apps on most smartphones, I believe both the iPhone and Android phones carry this, where there's just a textbook of the rules that you can have on your phone.
Yes. There's also, speaking of apps, there are card list apps, there are deck-making apps, there are just life apps that'll start you with 20 and 20 and, like, a dice roll. Those are really helpful just for, like, casual games if you don't have D20s. I do have D20s, but I use them as counters, so I prefer to use apps on my phone.
Again, it's better if you have a tablet to display these life totals on, but phones still work.
They definitely do. So yeah, definitely help people out, explain to them the rules. The biggest thing that will be a learning curve in Magic is all of the mechanics that go into cards. Just off the top of my head, we have Lifelink, Convoke, Death Touch, Heroic, Megamorph, Morph, Flash. Just a ridiculous amount of abilities that are on new cards, old cards. They're worded differently, and not all of them have reminder texts, so that can get really confusing for new players.
It's like, I still don't understand how Echo works.
Neither do I.
Magic had to make a press release on how banding works.
I don't remember how that works either.
It's okay. Mark Rosewater doesn't know how banding works. He'll be fine.
One of the cool new abilities that I found, I don't remember what it is called, but like it's referred to as encrypting. And that is when you play like a sorcery or an instant, you encrypt it onto a card and then or on a creature, and whenever that creature does combat damage to a player, you can play that instant or sorcery without paying its mana cost. Cipher, yes, thank you. That is a cool new mechanic that I just found, even though it was, I believe, in Dragon's Maze.
Yeah, it was in the RTR block for sure. But yeah, the mechanics will take a while to learn. Be patient with your friends.
Definitely.
If they don't know the rule, explain it to them.
And if they don't want to play, like if you walk up to them and you're like, "Hey, Joe, let's play a game today," and they're like, "Nah, I don't wanna," don't force it on them.
I mean, it's a lot of fun if you just let the game come to you. And like,
definitely.
Don't enforce competitive level rules at a kitchen table.
Definitely.
I'm still pissed off about that.
Yeah, I can sense the salt.
Speaking of which, I actually have a can of sea salt sitting on my bedside table as we speak about this.
Wow, you are almost literally salty.
I was eating popcorn.
Oh, that makes sense. So your fingers are probably salty.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, I don't know if we actually discussed this in last podcast. So we're based out of Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, Canada.
Yes.
And I, me being Nick, am attending college in California, and so the majority of our podcasts and discussions being filmed over Skype, and over the summer we'll be able to bring you more video, more podcasts, but over the school year I will be in California, and that will limit the amount of exposure I will have to Island Decree in itself, and hopefully not Magic as a whole.
Yeah. If you are in Vancouver, Washington, or one of the surrounding towns, feel free to drop by and say hi. We will likely spend most of our time at CCG House, which is a card store.
Definitely.
In Orchards. So if you want to stop by, we will be there most days. And if you're in California, which is a very big state as I understand.
Yeah, it is definitely large.
You can feel free to stop by and say hello to Nick during the not summer.
Yes, and if you are in California, make sure that you conserve water. We are in a drought.
Yes. Yes, you guys are in a drought. How's that drought going, by the way?
Well, it's certainly getting worse.
So, I believe you were about to say something before I made you go back.
Yeah. Oh, how I like to start out with new sets, and as I started out as a new player, is I like to buy, like, the main box. It should come with a few packs. It'll come with a lot of land. It'll come with, like,
Deck Builder's Toolkit?
Yes. It'll come with an assortment of commons, and a few rares.
Yeah, it comes with 100 land, 4-pack, and 204 packs, and 250 pre-randomized cards.
Yeah. So, those are a lot of fun, really helpful. They're only like $20. You get a lot of cards from them, and they're really good value. I like to use those.
From experience, don't buy 2 of them.
Yeah, don't buy 2. They are identical.
Yeah. When they say semi-randomized, they don't mean it.
Yeah, pretty much. I just out of curiosity, I bought the 2015 Deck Builders Toolkit and then watched a video of someone else opening a Deck Builders Toolkit at the same time as I was opening mine, and I was like, wait a second, these are the exact same cards!
Although that being said, there are not Deck Builders Toolkits for every set. Generally,
yes.
Only the core sets, which are done after Magic Origins.
Yeah.
So, Magic Origins may be your last chance to get a Deck Builders Toolkit.
It may be.
If not, Fat Packs are, in my opinion, overpriced, but also a good way to get some cards. If you have $100 laying around, buy a box.
Because that generally will get you, like, pretty much every card in the set.
No joke, when I said I took out a loan to play Magic, I legitimately used some student loan money to buy a box of cards.
Yeah. Also, along with the Deck Builders Toolkit, you get, like, an awesome box that'll hold, like, 1,000 cards or something like that.
It holds nine 60-card decks.
9 60-card decks, there you go. And as well as, like, the packs, you get the land, which is always helpful for anyone. Although, generally, you can go to, like card stores and just grab land for free, but...
No, please note something about card stores. If it's a big chain, you can get it for free. If it's not, you have to pay at least 10 cents a land.
Yes. The store by my house, we have a land exchange, so you can grab land for free if you need it. If you have land, but you're just one of those people who are very anal about their land like I am, and you want all your lands to match, then you can exchange land out for matching.
Yes, and if you have all of this land and you're like, I don't want this, you can most stores will take a donation of land. I mean, they won't pay you for it, but Or you can do what I did and be like, hey, I don't want these. Here. Take them,
Yeah.
friend.
Give them to a new player.
Well, I actually give them to the guy who introduced me to Magic, but...
Oh, well, yeah. Friend, new player. Really, I mean, everyone needs land, so...
So yeah, deck builder toolkits, fat packs, and honestly one thing you can do is go to most stores and just be like, hey, can you help me with this deck?
Yeah, definitely. People will look through it, they'll be like, alright, here's what you need. And even though they are card stores, you may be like, maybe they'll just tell me the most expensive cards so that I'll buy them and they make a profit. Like, no, that doesn't really happen.
I went into a store when I was first playing Magic, and honestly the guy's most interested in selling me the 25-cent cards, and he's like, these are actually really good in this deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Sweet.
The only time that they'll ever give you a card that's, like, pretty expensive is, like, they'll suggest it and be like, look, this card would be perfect for your deck. You don't have to buy it. It's just a suggestion.
And if you say it's like, hey, I need help with this deck, I'm on a budget, they'll be like,
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
okay, sweet, I'll recommend all cards under $5.
Yeah.
Like, I actually went into a card store once and had an hour-and-a-half long consulting session with one of the guys about my deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was really good. It wasn't even like he wasn't even like focusing on standard or modern. I'm like, I just play kitchen table, and he's like, oh sweet, and we built a really cool Venser the Sojourner deck.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, people at card stores, they'll try to help you. Most card stores, I'd say. There are some that are a bit.
Yeah, some can be, we're trying to make a profit, but for the most part, people that work at card stores are people that are like you and me. They are there because they know a lot about it, they want to help you, and they just love the games. And so they're really there, one, to spread their knowledge, and two, to help you.
Now here's an interesting moral dilemma. Let's say you're an experienced player.
Okay?
And you are playing some sort of event.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a big, GP, but like a standard.
Okay, free
and
standard,
you're
yeah.
playing against someone who is absolutely awful.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a kid or someone who clearly doesn't know how to play Magic very well. How should you address letting them know how to improve their deck without being a total dick about it?
Okay. First, we should preface this with, there are some kids that are really good at Magic.
Oh yeah, they're like most kids that are 5 are not going to be great at Magic.
Okay, yeah, we're talking 5-year-olds. They don't really even understand the game.
There are some kids
that are right on par.
Don't underestimate a child.
Definitely not. People that are really bad. First off, I would ask them, how long have you been playing? Because if they're just terrible, but they've been playing forever and they really know the rules, it's their fault that they didn't prepare better.
Or it's that they don't have any money to spend, and they're just going for fun.
Yeah, then, I mean, you can kind of calm down a little bit, and you don't have to just demolish them, but, they knew what was going to happen when they came in with that deck. Mm-hmm. For new players, you want to help them as much as possible. Definitely with new players, I'm much more lenient about the rules. If they go through their turn and then at the end of oh crap, I didn't untap my lands, I'm like, nah, just do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then they'll untap it, and it's not like they really have some sort of sneaky backhanded. Ooh, I untapped them just so that I could do all this counter spells.
And in most cases, let players do that unless it becomes a habit.
Yeah. Or if they go through their turn and they're like, oh, I forgot to draw a card. Yeah, draw a card. Doesn't matter to me. I'm here to play Magic, not to be a judge. But definitely help them as much as possible. That being said, generally events you do win prizes, and they can be easy wins. That's a terrible thing to say, I know, because I was debating saying it. But yeah, they are easy wins, and while you should help them as much as possible, you don't necessarily want to take it super easy on them. You just want to let them kind of get a better idea of it, because it's generally not fun when you just have somebody that sits there and okay, tap 5, swing for lethal, done, okay, great game, walk away. It's much nicer to lose to somebody who's oh, here's what you should do, if you were going to play this, you should actually play this combo instead, and then like kind of like take that back and that kind of stuff. That's much nicer.
There's certain etiquette.
Yeah.
So
be nice about beating new people.
Have a conversation with them first of all. Like during the game, don't be just so focused on winning that you don't even talk to your opponent at all.
Yeah, I've definitely faced players like that, and it's really annoying.
I faced a player who literally beat me down in 2 straight games and just like walked out of the building.
Yeah, just didn't say anything. You're like, okay, and just like etiquette, like you walk in, you introduce yourself, you shake hands. At the end of the game, you say like, "Thank you for the games, you're great games," and then like you go away. You don't even have to be like super friendly. You just have to like follow etiquette at least, like a little bit. Jeez.
And then if you know Magic enough to suggest improvements to a deck,
ooh,
you'd be
definitely.
like, "Hey, these cards would really help out this deck. I mean, they aren't too expensive, and I think this would really help your deck if this is what you're going for." Never be like, "Oh, this deck is awful, just scrap everything and play Siege Rhino."
Definitely. Another big thing. Something that helped me out when I started playing Standard, because I didn't really understand the whole, like, okay, like, we can only use, like, these, and these are the best cards from these sets and that kind of stuff. So I just kind of, like, found cards with those sets on them with, like, cards I thought worked together and just threw them into a deck. And then the first guy I faced at Free Standard, I looked through my deck afterwards because he kicked my butt. And then he looked through my deck afterwards, and he said, "Okay, you should take out these, replace them with like these cards," and did like that thing where he just kind of suggested cards. And then right afterwards, he like turns to his backpack, pulls out like 5 cards, and he's like, "Here, take these, put these in your deck, and then hopefully next time you'll be able to do a little better." And that was awesome. Like I didn't even feel bad about losing to him, just because he was so nice about it, as well as he really helped me out.
And then if that happens to you, pay it forward.
Definitely,
If you face a bad player, do the exact same thing. And there are some really generous people in Magic. Like, I had a guy...
Yes.
I've only ever had one competitively viable standard deck, and that was Wolves and Werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
And it was half bought by this other guy who's like, "Oh man, I love werewolves. I need to buy you all these cards. Because everyone should love werewolves this much." So there are some really nice people. If you're a new player, people will probably be really nice to you.
Probably, yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, if you don't understand something, ask somebody. There are some really annoying people that, like, I've taught, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to ask somebody for help." You're like, why not? People are here because they love the game. They're not here just to, like, kick your ass.
Well, some of them are.
Well, some of them are, but those guys are jerks. But, yeah, if you are facing a new player, be nice to them. They are an easy win. So don't necessarily focus on demolishing them. Focus on teaching them how to play the game.
That being said, don't lose on purpose. It doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that 100%. And if you are a new player and you are playing Standard or some sort of event, you're going to lose. Don't be disheartened about it. That's just what happens. It happens to the best of us. Like, I went to Standard... Today I lost 2 out of 3 matches, and that happens. Like, you don't have to be discouraged and be like, "Oh, Magic sucks, like I'm never going to get into it ever because I lost at this event." Like, that happens. You just kind of got to roll with it.
Now, interesting thing, never assume someone is a new player.
True.
I see this all the time with kids like 15 or under, and especially with anyone who's a female who's playing.
Oh, yeah.
People just automatically assume that they're new to the game. Never assume that for a player, because it's really insulting.
Also, funny anecdote. While I was at Standard a few weeks ago, there was a guy that was playing this girl, and he lost on purpose because for some reason he thought losing to this girl would be like flirting.
Ooh, yeah, no, never play Magic to get laid.
Yeah, so, yeah, that happened, and then he was complaining about it afterwards. He's like, "Yeah, I lost on purpose, she didn't even give me her number," and I was like, "Oh, no, you are one of those people."
See,
Don't be one of those people.
I'm a person who says that misogyny isn't as rampant as people say, and then there are guys like that I'm like, please leave.
Stop.
Just stop dating people.
Just leave, yeah. Oh. So don't do that, that's terrible.
So yeah,
And
basically,
also,
be nice. Don't be a dick to people.
Yeah, definitely. And if you do lose, it can
Lose
suck.
graciously, but lose
graciously, and don't blame it on, like, oh, like, I just didn't draw this card. If I would have drawn this card, like, I, like, would have won. But you didn't draw that card, and you're also, like, your opponent probably, like, spent a lot of time constructing their deck, and they probably, like, have a lot of skill, and you're really discounting that when you say that.
Now, that being said, you can be like, oh man, if I had one more turn.
No, yeah, definitely, because we've all been there, to the point where it's like, I have land, I have the card in my hand, if only I had been there, but you weren't.
And it's like, you could be like, man, you should like, show them the card and be like, if I had one more turn.
Yeah,
and most players are like totally fine with that. Or if you're like,
most
if you didn't draw any mana,
you didn't draw
any mana, you'll just be like, I'm not blaming you for beating me, but look at my mana base.
Yeah, definitely. If you have like one of those situations, or if you're just drawing mana, that kind of stuff. Like if you're mana flooded, mana blocked, or like you just have a combo in your hand, but you just don't get to it fast enough. Like you can show it to the other person, and generally, like you can notice if someone's mana blocked or mana flooded, and they probably won't feel like it's a really great win.
It's not a fun way to win.
It sucks. I hate winning that way.
But never be like, oh man, if I had just drawn these 7 cards.
Yeah, I know people that do that.
If I had just been playing my modern deck.
Yeah, if I knew, like, even today one of my friends went and he lost all 3 rounds, and then afterwards he was like, oh, if only I had been running my white deck. And I was like, but you weren't running your white deck. And they were probably pretty good. So
basic human decency is a great way to play Magic.
I love it.
So yeah, if you are a new player and interested in learning rules of Magic, there are much better podcasts that can discuss the rules. But I will include some links to them in the description. Limited Resources.
A lot of links in the description.
Limited Resources is a great podcast to listen to about rules.
Yes, definitely.
If you want to learn more about how to draft cards properly, they're also very helpful. And if you want some more witty Magic commentary, check out Tap Tap Concede.
Yes, I do like Tap Tap Concede.
Yes. So I think this is going to do it for this episode.
All right.
We will be with you again next week. And thank you for watching Island Decree.
Thank you very much. See you next time.